Welcome to Dark Hunt, where shadows come alive and every story leads you into the unknown. Don't forget to subscribe. Let the hunt begin. The shadows of Blackthorn Grove. It started as a simple dare. 3 friends, Emma, Jake, and Clara, stood at the edge of Blackthorn Grove, the notorious forest on the outskirts of their small town. Rumors of hauntings, strange disappearances, and shadowy figures had surrounded the grove for decades, making it a local legend. Emma, always the bold one, smirked as she tightened her backpack straps.
Come on, guys. We'll spend one night, prove it's all just stories, and leave with bragging rights.
Jake wasn't convinced.
People say they hear voices, that they see things.
And those people are probably drunk or lying.
Emma retorted.
Besides, you're not scared, are you?
Clara, the quietest of the group, shuffled nervously.
I don't know. My grandmother always said Blackthorn was cursed.
Exactly why we need to do this.
Emma said, stepping into the forest.
Let's go.
Reluctantly, Jake and Clara followed. The sun was setting, casting long shadows through the twisted trees. The deeper they went, the more the world seemed to shift. The air grew colder, and the sounds of the town faded into silence. They found a clearing as darkness fell, the perfect spot to set up camp. A ring of ancient oaks surrounded the area, their gnarled branches forming a canopy that blocked out the stars. Emma lit a fire, its flickering light casting eerie shapes on the trees. Jake unpacked their supplies, glancing around nervously.
It's too quiet.
He muttered.
No birds, no insects.
It's just nature.
Emma said, rolling her eyes.
Relax.
Clara sat close to the fire, clutching her jacket.
I feel like we're being watched.
Emma laughed, but the sound was hollow.
It's your imagination.
As they ate, the silence grew heavier, pressing down on them. Shadows seemed to move at the edge of the firelight, though none of them acknowledged it. Then came the whispering. It was faint at first, like the rustling of leaves, but it grew louder. Words they couldn't understand drifted through the air, sending chills down their spines.
Did you hear that?
Jake asked, his voice trembling.
It's just the wind.
Emma said, though her bravado was faltering. Clara shook her head.
That's not the wind.
The whispers stopped as suddenly as they had begun. Jake suggested they explored the area to calm their nerves, though none of them truly felt brave. Armed with flashlights, they ventured into the trees, staying close to one another. Not far from the clearing, they found a tree with strange carvings on its trunk. The symbols were jagged and crude, resembling nothing they'd ever seen.
Looks like someone's idea of a prank.
Emma said, though her voice wavered. Jake touched the carvings and immediately recoiled.
It's warm.
He said, wiping his hand on his jeans.
That's not normal.
Clara backed away, her flashlight trembling.
We should leave. Now.
Emma hesitated.
We've come this far. Let's just...
A loud crack interrupted her. The sound of a branch snapping echoed through the trees, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, and closing in, they ran back to the clearing, their flashlights bouncing wildly. The fire had almost died, casting only faint, flickering light. Emma threw more wood onto the flames as Jake and Clara scanned the darkness.
Whoever it is, they're messing with us.
Emma said, trying to steady her breathing.
That wasn't human.
Clara whispered. Before Emma could respond, the footsteps returned, circling the clearing. Shadows danced at the edge of the firelight, too large and too fast to be any animal. The whispering resumed, louder and more insistent. Jake grabbed a stick from the fire, wielding it like a weapon.
Show yourself.
He shouted. The whispering stopped, replaced by a low, guttural growl. A figure emerged from the trees, tall, impossibly thin, and cloaked in darkness. Its eyes glowed faintly, locking onto the trio.
Run!
Clara breathed. They fled into the forest, their flashlights barely illuminating the twisted paths. The creature gave chase, its growls reverberating through the trees. Clara tripped over a root, and Jake hauled her to her feet, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. Emma led the way, her confidence shattered.
This way!
She shouted, though she had no idea where they were going. The forest seemed alive, its branches reaching out to snag their clothes. The whispers followed them, mingling with the sound of their pounding footsteps. Ahead, they saw a faint light.
There!
Jake yelled. They burst into a clearing, but the light wasn't salvation. It was another carving, glowing with an unnatural brilliance. The creature stepped into the clearing, its form becoming clearer. It was made of shadows, its body shifting and writhing.
Stay back!
Jake shouted, brandishing his makeshift torch. The creature halted, its glowing eyes narrowing. It raised a hand, and the light from the carving intensified, blinding them. When the light faded, they found themselves in a different part of the forest. The air was heavier, the trees thicker and darker. In the distance, they saw an ancient stone altar, covered in moss and vines. Surrounding it were more carvings, glowing faintly. Clara stepped forward, drawn to the altar.
This is it. This is what the whispers were leading us to.
Why?
Jake asked, still gripping his torch. Emma scanned the area.
Maybe it's a trap, or maybe it's the only way out.
The creature appeared again, standing silently at the edge of the clearing. It didn't approach, but its presence was oppressive. Clara placed her hand on the altar, and the carvings glowed brighter. A voice filled the air, deep and resonant.
Balance must be restored.
The trio realized the truth. The forest demanded a price. Someone had to stay behind. Clara stepped back from the altar, shaking her head.
There has to be another way. There isn't.
Emma said, her voice steady.
I brought us here. It's my fault. I'll do it.
Jake and Clara protested, but Emma stepped toward the altar. The creature watched, its glowing eyes unblinking. As Emma placed her hand on the stone, the carvings flared, and the forest seemed to exhale. The creature bowed its head and vanished. Along with the whispers, Jake and Clara woke at the edge of Blackthorn Grove, the morning sun breaking through the trees. Emma was gone. The forest was silent, its oppressive aura lifted. They never spoke of that night again, but they often returned to the grove's edge, leaving flowers and whispers of gratitude. Deep within Blackthorn Grove, the altar remained, its carvings glowing faintly, waiting for the next visitors.